Yo, just with this one, through this one and everything else, you got the Castro, you got the Castro with the hatchback, you got the hatchback, and especially with this whole thing right here, you got the ACG too. You got the HTT, and especially, you got the hatchback, so something coming into this one right here, especially everything else is, level steaming too, everything is like it's on the same level as the same, thing, at the same like portrait, and everything else. But you just got with the Castro, and especially with the hatchback, and especially with the ACG and the whole thing coming through this one, especially with Castro, because Castro, he be got some like different type of habits and different man standards. But you got with this one right here, especially the view and the point of the view, but you just got with the especially with the hatchback and Castro coming through this one, and everything else.
AOSV.
I fuck that. Can we just stop the cap? You ain't ever made one rock in your life. I just stand on snap. Now fuck that. I'm in the Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty Pap. Before the briefing was hacked. Niggas know that we're different with it. How the hell you gon' tell us we ain't the show when you know that we've been spinning it? Don't lie for clout and risk your life like get that. I'm in the Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty.
Ooh, and you know how the whole thing goes. Like, hey, especially how it goes. Especially the Riz and everything else. Like the how it goes, how we spin those things. Especially how they really out there. On a different breed. Like they got they got the weather in control. Like how they say. You in that one little spot. So you got that weather. You got that weather on the lock. Weather on the spot. Cause it's this whole thing, especially the time and the place and and everything else, especially how this whole thing is, already recruiting. Like, hey, this whole thing, like I'm messing how this whole thing is already it's splashing, it's extortion.
You ain't ever made one rock in your life. I just stand on snap. Now fuck that. I'm in the Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty Pap. Before the briefing was hacked. Niggas know that we're different with it. How the hell you gon' tell us we ain't the show when you know that we've been spinning it? Don't lie for clout and risk your life like get a grip. I'm tired. We're all grown up now, it's time to start. Don't lie for clout and risk your life like get a grip. I'm tired. When you know that we've been spinning it. Don't lie for clout and risk your life like get a grip. I'm tired. We're all grown up now, it's time to start mashing it in. I'm supposed to wear these glasses, but I slapped them on just so we look lit.
Ooh, what he say? We all mashing it. Hey, you're all grown. It's time to start mashing it. Start to mash it in. We all litified now. We all know what we doing. We all grown. It's time to hit. It's time to hit something in.
But I slapped them on just so we look lit. We're still out here, but on bigger things. And with 90 and also this team, don't come too close to your ears will ring. Flooding your wages for a reason, and they keep sneezing till I empty the team. But still out here putting shit in cling and dodge your elbow to avoid the wing. I fuck them. Can we just stop the cap? You ain't ever made one rock in your life. I just stand on snap. Now fuck that. I'm in the Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty Pap. Before the briefing was hacked. There's a big difference between us and them. We back at chat, don't deny friends. They lie on tracks, they all.
Oh, it's a difference between us and them. They deny the pack talking. Especially how the whole thing goes. Especially how most people litify the things that they do, and some people they don't litify the things they do. So they could be like it just comes from a bold chunky type of thing. But hey, it's the ones that solidify, the ones that's actually doing the solidified, doing actually what they're saying they doing. That's another upstanding. But especially how this whole thing goes. The solidify and and mainly how this whole thing, you know, it curbs.
Pretend I put a wall over the hands of the end. Like the place up like I like my blends. They weigh them and over there be spitting is like fitness has become a trend. Can never ever be compared to them. Nope. Ones I caught them before I rap about jewels I done them. Before I rap about busters I only grab hands with the madness of diamond. Feds on my crib again. I just got raided again. I'm touring this big again. I'm banned from a goddamn hood again. I fuck them. Can we just stop the cap? You ain't ever made one rock in your life. I then stun on snap. Now fuck that. I'm in a Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty Pat. Before the briefing was Hatchback. I fuck that. Can we just stop the cap? You ain't ever made one rock in your life. I then stun on snap. Now fuck that. I'm in a Shogun rolling with TD and also Skitty Pat. Before the briefing was Hatchback.
And they really doing what they say they doing too, you know, especially the whole thing like, hey, you know, you know, swerving, spinning, you know, the whole thing like, hey, I solidify this one right here, like this one. I solidify this whole, you know, this whole thing, you know, because this one came through and you know, it's solidified. Ooh, coming through this one though, you know, with this whole thing. Shout out to Castro, you know, the Castro and everything, and shout out to Pac-Man TV because you know the whole thing, especially with this, you know, the hatchback, you know, especially how this one came through and this one already was already satisfying. Like, you know, he was putting everything on, especially with hatchback, you know. Hey, you got the hatchback, like, hey, you know, he's on his hatchback stuff, you know, especially with Castro, because Castro be really, you know, solidifying, like he's solidifying you guys. He's letting y'all know like what's going on with the whole thing, you know. Especially him, you know, giving it, you know, giving us that hatchback, you know, and everything else, and he's solidifying. But he just got with the Castro and everything else. But make sure you guys definitely, you know, tune in with this one and everything else. Make sure you guys definitely subscribe, like, comment, and you know, especially with the Castro and the a little bit of solidifying the whole thing, you know, how he was just put us around, especially how this whole thing was already, you know, suspicion and everything else. But just with this one right here,